The package started screaming before I even opened it. Not a weird creaking noise. Not something shifting inside the box. Actual screaming. I froze mid-motion, the tip of my kitchen knife still lodged in the packing tape. The sound was sharp, high-pitched, and full of raw panic, like something alive had just realized it was trapped. The box moved. Just slightly. A faint vibration against the counter. But enough. I slowly pulled the knife back, my pulse thudding in my ears. "Nope," I muttered under my breath. "That is absolutely not my problem." The screaming stopped. Just like that. Silence dropped over the kitchen so suddenly it felt wrong, like the world itself was holding its breath. I waited. Nothing. No movement. No sound. "Okay," I whispered, eyeing the box like it might explode. Maybe I imagined that. I didn't believe it. Still, I leaned in again, carefully this time, and glanced at the shipping label. Fragile. Live specimen. Do not expose to heat. I blinked. Live specimen. I repeated. I didn't order a live specimen. The cardboard felt warm under my fingers. Not room temperature warm. Body warm. A faint tremor ran through the box again. Then, another scream. Louder this time. Desperate. Scratching at something primal in my brain that screamed danger. I stumbled back so fast I nearly knocked over a chair. Yeah, no. Nope. Absolutely not happening. I grabbed my phone off the counter, already dialing customer service in my head, rehearsing how I was going to explain this. "Hi, yes, you sent me a screaming box and I would like a refund and possibly an exorcist." Another sound cut me off. Not a scream this time. A weak chirp. Soft. Fragile. The kind of sound something small makes when it's scared and alone. I hesitated. The box shifted again. More gently now, like whatever was inside had run out of strength. Another chirp. Quieter. Something twisted in my chest. "Don't do this," I told myself, pacing once across the kitchen. "You don't know what that is. It could be dangerous. Illegal. Radioactive." Chirp. I stopped. "It's probably not radioactive," I muttered. The silence stretched. Then came a faint tap from inside the box. Tap, tap. Like something nudging the walls. Not trying to break out anymore. Just reaching. I exhaled slowly, running a hand over my face. "This is how horror movies start," I said out loud. "This is exactly how people die." Tap. Chirp. "Yeah," I sighed. "I'm gonna regret this." I stepped back up to the counter and carefully sliced the rest of the tape. The flaps creaked open. For a moment, I just stood there, staring into the darkness inside. Then I folded the cardboard back. Inside the box, wrapped in layers of dark, scorched-looking cloth, was a single object. An egg. I frowned. That's it. It didn't look normal. Not even close. The shell was black, matte in some places, glossy in others, like cooled volcanic rock. Thin, jagged lines ran across its surface, glowing faintly orange, like cracks filled with embers. And it was shaking. Not violently. Just enough to make the cloth around it rustle. "Okay," I whispered. "That is deeply concerning." I reached out, hesitated, then pulled my hand back. "Nope. Bad idea. Bad idea." The egg gave a tiny wobble. Then, a soft, pitiful chirp came from inside it. I froze. "That came from inside you," I said. Another chirp. Weaker this time. I swallowed. "Yeah, all right," I muttered. "You win." Carefully, very carefully, I slid my hands under the egg and lifted it out of the box. It was warm. Not just warm. Hot. Not enough to burn, but enough that I instinctively shifted my grip. The moment my fingers made full contact with the shell, everything stopped. The trembling, the sound, even the faint glow seemed to dim. The kitchen fell silent again. I held my breath. "Hello," I said quietly. Nothing. For a second, I wondered if I'd just imagined everything. Then the egg gave the slightest movement. A gentle nudge against my palm. Not struggling. Not panicked. Just there. And then, a soft, contented chirp. I stayed at it. "You've got to be kidding me." The egg settled in my hands like it belonged there. Like it had been waiting. I looked back at the box. No return address. No sender name. Nothing except that warning label. "Do not expose to heat." I glanced down at the egg again, at the faint orange glow beneath its cracked surface. at the warmth radiating into my hands. Yeah, I said slowly. That seems like important advice. I'm already failing. The egg gave another small, happy chirp. I closed my eyes for a moment, thought about putting it back, about sealing the box, about calling someone, anyone, to come deal with it. Instead, I tightened my grip slightly to keep it steady. All right, I said, exhaling. The word felt like a decision I couldn't take back. I looked down at the strange, glowing egg resting in my hands, then at my perfectly normal, definitely not on fire kitchen, and shook my head. Yeah, I muttered. You're staying. The egg started cracking at 1:37 a.m. I know the exact time because I hadn't slept. Not even close. Try going to bed with a mysterious, possibly illegal, definitely alive lava egg sitting in a mixing bowl on your kitchen counter. Every creak of the house sounds like a prelude to disaster. Every flicker of shadow feels like a warning. So yeah, I was awake, staring at it, waiting. The first crack was almost polite. A soft tick. I straightened instantly in my chair. Nope, I said out loud, even as I leaned forward. Nope, we're not doing this tonight. Tick. Another hairline fracture spread across the surface, glowing faintly orange from within. I swallowed. Well, I muttered, pushing myself to my feet. Guess we're doing this tonight. I approached slowly, like it might explode if I moved too fast. The egg sat exactly where I'd left it, nestled in the bowl, its surface now webbed with thin, glowing lines. Another crack. This one louder. A small piece of shell shifted outward, then fell away. A faint curl of smoke slipped through the opening. Okay, I whispered. Okay, smoke is new. That's definitely new. The egg trembled. A low, soft sound came from inside. Not quite a chirp this time. Something deeper. Strained. Then the shell split. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Just gave way. A jagged seam opened along the side, and something inside pushed weakly against it. I leaned in despite every survival instinct screaming at me to back up. Come on, I murmured, before I could stop myself. You've got it. Another push. The crack widened, and then, with a quiet, brittle snap, the egg broke open. For a second, nothing happened. Then a small, soot-covered head poked out. I blinked. Oh, I said. The creature blinked back. Its eyes glowed faintly, warm amber, like embers in the dark. Its scales, if that's what they were dark, almost black, with faint traces of orange pulsing beneath the surface. It looked confused, and very, very small. It pushed itself forward, tumbling out of the shell and landing in the bowl with an ungraceful flop. I winced. Yeah, that's about how I imagined this would go. The creature lay there for a second, breathing in short, uneven puffs. Then it sneezed. A tiny burst of smoke puffed out of its nose. I froze. Did you just? It sneezed again. Another puff. Then it looked up at me and chirped. Soft. Curious. Like it was asking a question. I stayed at it. It stayed at me. Neither of us moved. Okay, I said slowly, pointing at it. You are not a lizard. It tilted its head. Small wings, actual wings, shifted slightly at its sides. Not fully formed, but definitely there. You're also not anything I have the legal paperwork for, I added. It blinked. Then, with surprising determination, it tried to stand. Its legs wobbled immediately. It took one step, slipped, face planted directly into the side of the bowl. I winced again. Yeah, that tracks. The creature let out a tiny, offended squeak. Then it tried again, and again, each attempt just as clumsy as the last, until finally, after what might have been the least graceful series of movements I'd ever witnessed, it managed to hold itself upright. It stood there, swaying slightly. Then it looked at me, and smiled. I'm not exaggerating. It actually smiled. No, I said immediately. Nope, don't do that. Don't be cute. That's manipulation. It chirped again, and took a step toward me. I backed up. Hey, no, stay in the bowl. That's your zone. That's your safe, contained. It climbed out. Of course it did. One awkward scramble later, it tumbled onto the counter with a soft thud, shook itself off, and started waddling toward me. Absolutely not, I said, holding up a hand. We are establishing boundaries right now. It ignored me completely. Kept coming. Slow. Unsteady. Determined. You don't even know where you're going, I pointed out. It tripped over its own foot again. Recovered. Kept going. Straight toward me. I sighed. This is a bad idea, I muttered. It reached my hand. Paused. Looked up at me one more time. And then, very gently, leaned against my fingers. I froze. The warmth was immediate. Not uncomfortable. Just there. Like holding a cup of tea on a cold morning. It let out a soft, contented chirp. And just like that, I was done. Yeah, I said quietly. That's it. I'm officially making poor life choices now. I crouched down and carefully scooped it up. It didn't resist. Didn't flail. Just settled into my hands like it had been waiting for it. All right, I said, studying it more closely. Let's get a few things straight. It blinked up at me. You are not setting anything on fire, I continued. You are not eating anything important. And you are definitely not, growing into something that requires its own zip code. It chirped. I narrowed my eyes. I'm serious. Another chirp. Then it yawned. A tiny flicker of orange light flashed in its mouth before fading. I paused. Okay, that's mildly concerning. It snuggled slightly deeper into my grip, completely unbothered. I exhaled slowly. Right, I muttered. You need a name. It perked up slightly at that. Don't get excited, I warned. This is purely for organizational purposes. I glanced at the broken shell, at the faint smoke still drifting from its nostrils, at the ember-like glow beneath its scales. Ash, I said finally. The creature chirped. Louder this time. Almost pleased. Yeah, I nodded. Ash. Short. Simple. Slightly less alarming than walking fire hazard. It chirped again, curling slightly in my hands. I shook my head. Mistake number one, I muttered. Ash yawned once more, eyes half-litting. Then, without warning, it shifted, climbed up my arm, and settled against my shoulder like it had always belonged there. I went still. We are not doing that, I said. Ash ignored me, closed his eyes, and within seconds, fell asleep. I stayed straight ahead. This is how it starts, I whispered. In the reflection of the dark window, I caught a glimpse of myself, disheveled, exhausted, standing in a half-lit kitchen, with a baby dragon sleeping on my shoulder. I sighed. Yeah, I said quietly. I'm in trouble. For 3 days, everything was fine, which, in hindsight, should have terrified me more. Ash turned out to be manageable. Not easy. Not normal. Definitely not safe by any reasonable legal definition, but manageable. He ate almost anything. Eggs, which felt wrong on multiple levels, bits of chicken, leftover rice, and, once, half a dish sponge before I caught him mid-chew. Drop it, I ordered. He didn't. Just stared at me with those glowing amber eyes, jaw slowly working like I might not notice. Ash. He swallowed. I closed my eyes. That was a sponge. He chirped proudly. Yeah, I muttered. I'm raising a disaster. Still, it worked. He followed me everywhere, waddling after me from room to room, claws clicking softly against the floor. If I sat down, he climbed onto my shoulder. If I stood still too long, he curled around my foot like a very warm, slightly smoldering cat. And the smoke, mostly harmless, little puffs when he sneezed, the occasional faint trail when he yawned. Once, a hiccup that produced a spark the size of a match head. I told myself that was normal, that I had it under control, that whatever warning had been on that box, do not expose to heat, was probably exaggerated. Yay, that was my second mistake. It happened on the morning of day 4. I was making breakfast, half asleep, going through the motions. Pan on the stove, eggs cracking into the heat, the faint sizzle filling the kitchen. Ash sat on the counter nearby, watching intently. He liked watching me cook. I don't know why. Maybe it was the heat. Maybe it was the movement. Or maybe he was just waiting for me to drop something. Don't even think about it, I said without looking at him. You've already eaten. He chirped innocently. I snorted. Yeah, I don't believe you either. For a few minutes, everything was normal. Quiet. Calm. Then Ash made a sound I hadn't heard since the box. A sharp, high-pitched noise. Not a chirp. Not curiosity. Panic. I froze. Slowly turned my head. Ash wasn't sitting anymore. He was crouched low against the counter, wings slightly spread, body tense. His eyes were wide, glowing brighter than I'd ever seen. Ash, I said carefully. Hey, what's wrong? He didn't respond. The sound came again, higher this time, closer to a scream. My stomach dropped. No, I muttered. No, 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 don't do that. Don't do that again. He backed up slightly, claws scraping against the countertop. Another scream. Louder. Desperate. Exactly like the sound from inside the box. Ash, hey, look at me, I said, stepping toward him slowly. You're okay. There's nothing here. Yo. He looked at me, and everything went wrong. His mouth opened. For a split second, I saw it. That faint orange glow building in his throat. Oh. The world exploded. A jet of fire burst from his mouth, blasting across the kitchen in a roaring wave of heat and light. It hit the cabinets with a whoomph, flame spreading instantly across the wood. I stumbled back, throwing an arm up to shield my face. Ash! The heat slammed into me like a wall. The smoke alarm went off instantly, a piercing shriek cutting through the chaos. Ash screamed again, and the fire kept coming. Ash, stop! I shouted, grabbing the nearest thing, a dish towel, and lunging toward the flames. You have to stop. The fire crawled along the cabinets, licking upward, devouring everything it touched. I slammed the towel against the nearest patch, trying to smother it. It didn't help much. Ash! I yelled again. He was still there, still screaming, still breathing fire in short, uncontrolled bursts, each one sending another wave of heat across the room. Panic surged. Okay, think, I muttered, backing toward the sink. Water, water, water. I yanked the faucet on full blast and soaked the towel, then turned back and threw it against the flames again. This time, it helped. A little. Steam hissed up as the fire fought back. Behind me, Ash's scream started to break. Less force. More strain. Like he was running out of whatever was fueling it. Good, I gasped. That's good. Just stop, buddy. You're doing great. Just stop setting things on fire. Another burst. Smaller. Weaker. Then, nothing. The fire didn't vanish instantly, but it stopped spreading. Without new fuel, it began to die down under the assault of water and frantic towel smothering. A minute later, maybe less, maybe more, I couldn't tell. The flames were gone. All that remained was smoke. Thick, acrid, curling up toward the ceiling in dark, ugly spirals. The alarm still screamed overhead. I stood there, breathing hard, staring at what used to be my kitchen. The cabinets were blackened, edges still glowing faintly. One of them hung half open, warped from the heat. Utensils lay scattered across the floor. Something, maybe the toaster, had melted into a shape I didn't recognize anymore. Okay, I said hoarsely. Okay, that's not ideal. A small sound pulled my attention back. I turned. Ash sat in the middle of the counter, curled in on himself, shaking. His wings were tucked tight against his body, his head lowered, tiny puffs of smoke escaping with each uneven breath. Hey, I said, my voice softening immediately. I stepped closer, slower this time. No, you're okay, I murmured. It's over. You're okay. He didn't look up, just whimpered quietly. I reached out, hesitated for half a second, then gently placed my hand against his back. Warm, still warm, but no longer burning. He flinched at first, then stilled. Yeah, I exhaled. That's what I thought. I crouched down beside him, ignoring the mess, the smake, the still blaring alarm. You didn't mean to, I said quietly. Right. Ash slowly lifted his head. His glowing eyes met mine, and he let out the softest, most apologetic chirp I'd ever heard. A tiny puff of smoke followed it. I huffed a weak laugh. Yeah, I muttered. You cry fire. He leaned slightly into my hand, still shaking. I glanced around the ruined kitchen, at the blackened walls, the melted appliances, the lingering heat in the air, then back at him. We're going to have to work on that, I said. Ash chirped faintly, and somewhere in the back of my mind, past the smoke, the damage, the very obvious disaster, a new thought settled in. If this was what happened when he got scared, what would happen if something actually tried to hurt him? The smoke alarm didn't stop for another 3 minutes. 3 long, ringing minutes of standing in the middle of a burnt-out kitchen, waving a dish towel at the ceiling like that was somehow going to undo what just happened. "It's fine," I muttered hoarsely, coughing as the last of the smoke drifted upward. "Everything's fine. Totally normal morning. Kitchens catch fire all the time." The alarm screamed back in disagreement. Yeah, I hear you." I dragged a chair over, climbed up, and smacked the reset button harder than necessary. Silence. Blessed, ringing silence. For a moment, I just stood there on the chair, staring at the damage. The cabinets were blackened, some of them warped beyond recognition. One hung crookedly, barely attached at the hinges. The wall behind the stove was scorched in an uneven pattern, like something had reached out with fire and dragged its fingers across it. My counter, charred. My utensils, ruined. My toaster, unidentifiable. "Okay," I said slowly, climbing down. "So we're not getting the security deposit back." A small, shaky sound came from behind me. I turned immediately. Ash hadn't moved far. He was still on the counter, curled into himself like a bowl of soot and trembling wings. Tiny puffs of smoke escaped him with each uneven breath. "Hey," I said, softer now. I stepped closer, slower than before. No, you're okay," I murmured. "It's over. Nothing's on fire anymore." "Well, nothing new is on fire." Ash let out a faint whimper. His wings twitched, then tucked tighter around his body. I reached out again, gently resting my hand against his back. He flinched, just slightly, then stilled. "Yeah," I exhaled. "That's what I thought." For a few seconds, neither of us moved. The kitchen smelled like burnt wood and melted plastic. Heat still lingered in the air, clinging to the walls like a memory that refused to fade. "You didn't mean to," I said quietly. Ash slowly lifted his head. His eyes were dimmer now. The bright ember glow faded to something softer. Guilt, if I had to guess. He chirped. Soft. Apologetic. A tiny puff of smoke followed. I huffed a weak laugh. "Yay, that tracks." Carefully, I slid my hands under him and lifted him off the counter. This time, he didn't climb or squirm. He just let me, curled into my palms like he'd run out of energy to do anything else. "All right," I said, shifting him slightly so he was more comfortable. "New rule." He blinked slowly. "No screaming," I continued. "Or if you are going to scream, maybe, don't breathe fire while you're doing it." He made a small, uncertain chirp. "I know," I sighed. "We'll workshop it." I carried him over to the least destroyed part of the counter, which wasn't saying much, and set him down gently. He stayed where I put him. Didn't wonder. Didn't try to eat anything. Just curled up again, watching me with those dim, glowing eyes. "Right," I muttered, taining back to the disaster zone. Damage control. Step 1, assess. Step 2, panic. Step 3, figure out how to explain this to literally anyone without sounding insane. I grabbed another towel and started wiping at the counter, mostly out of habit. It didn't do much. You can't burn wood with a damp cloth. "Okay," I said, thinking out loud. "Options. We have options." Ash chirped faintly behind me. "Option 1, I call someone," I continued, which immediately raises questions like, why is your kitchen on fire, and what is that small dragon doing on your counter? So that's out. Another chirp. "Option 2, I pretend this didn't happen," I said, which is difficult, because it very obviously happened. I glanced back at him. He blinked. "Yeah, not helpful," I muttered. I paced once across the kitchen, stepping over a melted utensil. "Option 3, I trailed off. There wasn't an option 3. Not a good one, anyway. I stopped, looked at Ash again, at the way he was still trembling slightly, even now, at the faint smoke curling lazily from his nose. "We fix it," I said finally. Ash tilted his head. "We fix you," I clarified. "Or at least, we figure out how to stop you from turning my house into a bonfire every time you get nervous." He let out a soft, uncertain chirp. "Yeah," I nodded. "Exactly." For a moment, the chaos faded into the background. The burned cabinets, the ruined appliances, the lingering smell of smoke. None of it mattered as much as the small, anxious creature sitting on my counter. "You're not dangerous," I said quietly. "You just Don't know what you're doing yet. Ash's eyes flickered slightly brighter. He shifted, just a little closer to the edge of the counter. Closer to me. I allowed myself a small smile. See, progress already. He chirped again, softer this time, almost hopeful. Then, he froze. It was subtle at first. A slight stiffening of his body, a pause in his breathing. I noticed immediately. Ash, I said. His head turned slowly. Not toward me, toward the window. The air shifted. It was faint, but unmistakable. The temperature rose. Not like before, no sudden blast of heat. Just a steady increase. Like something outside was pressing warmth against the glass. Ash's wings spread slightly. Not wide. Just enough to make him look bigger. A low sound rumbled in his throat. Not a chirp. Not a whimper. A growl. I went very still. Okay, I whispered. That's new. Ash didn't look at me. His eyes were locked on the window, glowing brighter again. The soft orange beneath his scales pulsing in a slow, steady rhythm. I followed his gaze. The window looked normal. Dark glass reflecting the burned remains of my kitchen. Nothing there. No movement. No shadow. Nothing. You see something? I asked quietly. Ash's growl deepened. The air got warmer. My chest tightened. Because suddenly, very suddenly, I remembered the label on the box. Live specimen. Not lost specimen. Not abandoned specimen. Specimen. Something sent. Something shipped. Something that belonged to someone. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Ash, I said slowly. He didn't respond. Didn't look away from the window. The growl didn't stop. If anything, it got louder. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I realized something that made the Bain kitchen feel like the least of my problems. Whatever had sent that egg might not be done with it, and judging by the way Ash was reacting, it might already be hay. The knock came 5 minutes later. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Not the kind of knock you ignore. Not the kind you pretend you didn't hear. The kind that expects an answer. I froze halfway across the kitchen. Ash didn't. His growl sharpened instantly, low and steady, vibrating through his tiny frame. The faint orange glow beneath his scales brightened, pulsing in time with something I couldn't hear. Another knock, louder this time. The sound echoed through the house, deep enough to feel in my chest. Yeah, I whispered, more to myself than anything. I don't like that. Ash hissed. Actually hissed. His wings spread wider now, still small but no longer tucked away. The air around him shimmered faintly with heat. I glanced toward the door, then back at him. Stay here, I said quietly. He didn't listen. Of course he didn't. The moment I took a step toward the hallway, he hopped down from the counter, slightly more coordinated than before, and followed, claws clicking against the floor. Ash, I muttered, not turning around. I'm serious. Stay. Another hiss. Closer now. I sighed. Yeah, I figured. The knock came again just as I reached the door. 3 slow strikes, each one spaced just far enough apart to feel intentional. Whoever was on the other side wasn't in a hurry. That worried me more than anything else. Open up, a voice called. Calm, cold, not loud, not aggressive, just certain. I went still, my hand hovering just inches from the handle. Ash pressed against the back of my leg, heat radiating through my clothes. Yeah, I whispered. That's not creepy at all. Open the door. Same voice, same tone, each word measured, like they already knew I was standing here, like they could see me. My grip tightened slightly. Who is it? I called back. There was a pause. Not long, just enough to feel deliberate. Then, you have something that doesn't belong to you. My stomach dropped. Behind me, Ash's growl deepened. The air in the hallway grew noticeably warmer. I think you've got the wrong place, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. Another pause. Then a soft, almost amused exhale from the other side. No, the voice replied. I don't. Ash shifted. His claws scraped against the floor as he stepped forward, moving past me this time, placing himself directly between me and the door. Ash, I started. He ignored me. His wings spread fully now, small but defiant. The glow beneath his scales intensified, bright enough to cast faint flickers of orange light against the walls. Ash, I repeated, more firmly. That's not helping. He didn't move. Didn't look back. Just stayed at the door like he could see through it. The handle twitched. Just slightly. I felt my pulse spike. Hey, I said quickly. Locked door. That's a boundary. The voice on the other side didn't respond immediately. When it did, it was quieter. Closer. Last chance. Ash's growl turned into a sharp, rising sound. Not quite a scream. Not yet. But getting there. The temperature jumped again. The air felt thick. Heavy. Like a storm building pressure. Okay, I muttered under my breath. We are not doing this again. No fire. No fire, buddy. We talked about this. Ash's body tensed. The glow in his throat flickered. Oh no. Nope, I said quickly, crouching down slightly. Hey, look at me. Look at me, Ash. For a split second, his attention flicked back to me. His eyes were wide. Faye. Real, raw Faye. And underneath it, something else. Instinct. The kind that didn't care about burned kitchens or broken cabinets. The kind that only cared about survival. His skate. The voice said from the other side of the door. My head snapped up. You can hear him? I asked. A soft chuckle answered me. I can feel him. Ash's growl spiked. The glow flared brighter. The wood of the door creaked faintly. Yeah, I said slowly, standing back up. That's not reassuring. Open the door, the voice repeated. And this can remain simple. I glanced down at Ash. At the way he was braced, every muscle in his small body coiled tight. At the heat building around him. Simple for who? I asked. No answer. That was answer enough. I exhaled slowly, then did something that, in hindsight, was probably just as bad as opening the door. I stepped in front of Ash. Hey, I said quietly, without looking back. New rule. He made a small, confused sound behind me. You don't burn anything unless I say so, I continued. Got it. A pause. Then a soft, uncertain chirp. Yeah, I muttered. We'll call that a maybe. I reached for the handle. Behind me, Ash shifted again, pressing closer. The heat followed. Last chance, the voice said. I tightened my grip. Yeah, I replied. You said that already. And then, I opened the door. The man standing on the other side looked normal. That was the worst part. No armor. No weapons. No glowing eyes or dramatic entrance. Just a tall figure in dark clothing. Hands loosely at his sides, expression calm. Too calm. His gaze flicked past me instantly. Locked onto Ash. And for the first time since this started, Ash screamed. Not the panicked, confused sound from before. Not the accidental cry of something overwhelmed. This was different. Sharp. Furious. Alive with something ancient and dangerous. The glow in his throat ignited. Bright. Blinding. I turned just in time to see it. Oh no. The man didn't flinch. Didn't move. Just smiled slightly. Ah, he said softly. There you are. Ash's scream peaked. The air ignited. And this time, the fire wasn't an accident.